We're here to tell you about library services while you study abroad, which is exciting and awesome. So I'm Anne.
I'm Ryan. And I'm Eric.
And here we go. So while you study abroad, you will be exploring new countries, but you also have schoolwork to do. And sometimes you might need to go to a library. So before you go and get stuck, like not knowing what you can do to complete your assignments, we're just going to give you a brief overview of library services and then some other information that's available while you're abroad. So this is the website we think you guys should be accessing to find all that information in one simple place.
So if you go to the website, we've collected a lot of information about what resources are available to you from the library here under the Library Resources tab. And so there are actually, a lot of students aren't aware or don't think of it for their study abroad programs that there are a lot of library services available to them. You should know that in a lot of cases, the library at your host university either may not have all of the resources available that we do here at Maryland, or they may not be available to you as a student who is temporary or who is from out of the country. So you are, available, all the resources are available to you that you normally have while you are here on campus, even though you are studying abroad. So, or at least most of those services. So right here, there's a link to some basically information on how to connect to the library from off campus. You can just use your basic UMD directory ID and password, but this gives you some links to that information and some troubleshooting resources if you have problems. And then we've collected together here just kind of a list of what services are available to you while you're abroad. You do have full online access to all of the off-campus library services that the Maryland libraries have. There are no restrictions based on region, based on remote access. Everything that you would be able to access online on campus is accessible to you wherever you are in the world. So that includes the WorldCat search. It includes all of the electronic copies and articles databases that are available to all of the students here through ResearchPort, through WorldCat, all of the ebooks and other sort of electronic materials that are available through the website are all available for exactly the same uses while you're overseas. You can also receive electronic copies and articles through interlibrary loan. If we don't have a material that you need and you are able to find through WorldCat or some other means a library that does have that accessible in an electronic format, interlibrary loan can arrange to get that material sent to us and make it available to you electronically while you're overseas. In addition, the streaming video collections and the films that are available online are accessible, and the course reserves through ELMS as usual. In addition, there are library research and reference services which are available to you while you are overseas. If you need help with research, if you have any questions about library services or how to access anything, the Ask Us service gives you a couple of options. There are a list of very common questions that maybe have already been answered. There is a live chat service, which allows you to chat with the librarian if you have any questions about library services. So if you have problems finding something, if you aren't sure what's available to you or how to access it, someone can help you through there. And that's available as a live chat, and also you can leave a question here that will be answered later. And then there are also, if you're looking for research information on a specific subject, Maryland libraries have a full range of subject specialists. This is a list here by subject. All of these are available via email. and they can be of great assistance. They're happy to help you with any questions you might have about your research for a specific topic. They can help you find materials that are in the library, help direct you to useful resources. All of that is available via email while you are on your programs. The only things that would not be available, in-person services, any kind of physical items, access to any sort of equipment or physical services would obviously not be available. And with interlibrary loan, those books, physical books or other print materials are not available. We are not able to send those away from the library. You would have to come here and pick them up. And in general, the borrowing periods for those are shorter than your program is likely to be. So it's usually not recommended that you would get something before you left and bring it with you. It's usually not possible. And just in general, other non-digitized materials wouldn't be available. But that said, a huge range of our services are equally available during your programs. So there's a few links here of other things that you might find useful through the library or through Maryland in general. The Writing Center actually offers online tutoring, which is available to all students, although the site is being a little slow. But you can access that. There's a link to it there, and they can offer you, help with writing a paper or whatever else you're working on, just the same as they could if you're visiting the Writing Center here on campus. You can actually schedule an appointment for online tutoring. That's done by a video chat, I believe. So that's one resource. There's a link here to ResearchPort, which you may be familiar with. It's kind of a central point for all of the university databases that you have access to. Again, you can log in using your normal UMD ID and get access to all sorts of articles, research papers, databases through there. For faculty and graduate students, or probably useful maybe to other students as well, there's the Research Commons site through the libraries, and this gives a lot of information on the research process. If you're working on a large project, research project, and you want some assistance or help with basically going through the research process, generating ideas, whatever else you might have trouble with in the course of your studies, this has a lot of great information on that, and that's again available through the library website. And again, the Ask Us service can help you with any other questions you have about library services. There is always someone available, and people are, anyone here at the libraries is always happy to help you, even if you're not an on-campus student. One other thing, which is not a library service, but is here because it could be very important, is if there's an emergency, we've got a link here to the Department of State's emergency website, which connects you to emergency resources, can help you get in touch with the nearest consulate or find out who to contact if there's a real emergency situation that unfortunately arises while you're out of the country. And then the last thing here is just a link to the Education Abroad website, which you may have seen already, but if not, has very extensive information on all of the programs that are offered here, links to their websites, links to application information, and a lot of other great information for students on their programs. So that's all available here through this website as well. So that's kind of an overview of the library services that are available to you, of which there are many. But we know that there are also a lot of other concerns that you may have as students going on these programs before and during and after your program that you may have questions about or you may be seeking information about. So we've prepared a few pages of information on those things. And Ryan can give you a little overview of that.
Right, so in our pre-departure page here, it's a lot of helpful information for what you should know before you actually leave for your trip, before you get on that plane and make your journey over. Main thing, of course, to consider before you go, especially before you go, would be that, like all other courses and classes, you're more than likely going to have required readings. You're going to have assignments, maybe papers that will require extra research, things along those lines. So, of course, all of our library services will be very, very helpful for that. But, of course, they are all only available by electronic means and online. So if you don't have access to those, that could be potentially a problem. In most cases, you would either get it through your UMD library's homepage by searching for it, browsing for it through databases, etc., or the particular materials may actually be already on ELMS in the course reserve system that is actually connected to ELMS. So when you're considering before you leave, make sure that you pay attention to that. Your faculty member will actually, or the program advisor will be the one that controls that course reserve system and uploads to ELMS. So make sure you contact them if you feel like you may not have access to internet or to network support services while you are there and on your program in your country. So think about that. If you are doing a field study experience, it's a really popular one where you may not actually have internet access, or you may not even have electricity or enough electricity to actually keep your technology running or loaded, or however you want to call it. So basically, make sure you know that before you leave. If it is something that you think, if it is something that the faculty member says you should consider or you need to think about, then log on to your ELMS account, open up that particular course, look in the course reserve system, and if you have to, you can actually download the items, save them, print them, whichever you need to do. So of course, if you're going to have electricity to charge your items, but you're not going to have internet access, then of course you can just save them to a flash drive. But if you aren't going to have electricity, much less internet services, you may need to print them out before you actually depart for your country. That way you actually have your physical materials while you're there. So some other resources and preparation that you might need to take care of before you go. Up here at the top, you'll see where we've mentioned that you should pay attention and take notes while you're watching or reading the videos and prep guides that are included as part of the Education Abroad application process. If you've already gone through that process, then you may recall that you had to watch a couple of videos and actually to submit your application. Depends on finances and things along those lines, stuff that you need to know before you leave, that kind of stuff. So make sure you pay attention and take notes. And then, of course, from the student perspective, we wanted to make sure that you had an idea of what you were going to do while you were there. So this International Studies Abroad, Study Abroad student blog page is actually very, very helpful. It's very interesting. It's not one particular student, so that makes it very, very thoroughly done, very well done, very well organized, because they have different students from different parts of the country that they visited. So it gives you a couple of ideas on things that you may be able to do. There's a couple of things on the side here that are listed by country, so that may also be very helpful that you might want to check into. As far as government sources come, those are also going to be very, 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 very helpful. I can't stress that enough, because they're going to give you tips on your traveling, the traveler's checklist, as it says here, as well as a site specific for students that are studying abroad. So this is controlled by the Department of State, and it gives you a lot of very, very helpful information that could be helpful either before you leave, while you're there, everything from travel documents to health situations that you may need to be aware of, embassies, smart travel. So it's a very helpful website to look into that. You have that access to that as well. You may also consider browsing the travel alerts warnings to make sure that you know what to expect before you leave. If there are any travel alerts you need to know about before you actually leave, make sure you're well informed. And I'm sure as you are aware, there are foreign exchange rates depending on the country you're going to. So they're going to vary from the American dollar to whichever you're going to, the euro or to the pound, whichever way, etc. So that could be helpful, as well as the differences in power outlets and adapter plugs. You may not consider that, you may not think about that before you leave, but it's a very helpful thing to remember. If you have in order to actually have access to a lot of this material, you do have to be online. And in order to do that, you're going to need some kind of technology that's charged, that has electricity, so make sure you know that as well. The TSA's, Transportation Security Administration's webpage gives you a couple of ideas for tips on travel, things like that, so you can check those guys out as well. And of course, these bibliographic instruction classes that one exactly like this one here. Basically, those are usually arranged by faculty members. They can request one through the library. That can be part of your pre-departure orientation class, which is often a requirement before you leave, and they could include just basically a refresher, or it can be specific to studying abroad, like this one is. So that's also very helpful. Foreign language resources. Again, you're going to a different country, different languages. You might be a little stressed out, but this right here actually is very helpful. The University of Maryland in particular, there's a couple of sites as far as the Education Abroad office has put one together. If that will load. There we go. So this Education Abroad page here, Learn a Foreign Language, gives you a couple of hints, tricks, links, places to check out for the language learning opportunities that are available here on the University of Maryland's campus. And a really great resource that we've found is actually really, really, really helpful for improving your conversational skills is there are these Language House coffee conversations. So they vary depending on the semester when they actually are held. Currently they are on Mondays, but they are arranged by clusters. So if you check those out, each of these language clusters is organized by a particular language, and they also all have their own websites, so that could be helpful as well. But what it is you meet for these coffee house conversations, and you basically speak to one another. It's organized by a mediator or a native or near native speaker of the language, and they'll make sure that you're actually speaking correctly, that you're holding a conversation, and that you're actually able to speak to one another, to speak to others while you're there. So that way you can actually enjoy the cultures that you're there and get everything you need out of it. Other resources that are, of course, outside of the University of Libraries, these Huffington Post page here, the 70 outstanding language learning apps and websites. I highly recommend the Duolingo. I personally use that myself, and it's very helpful. It's very informational. It's very user-friendly. And the languages actually do stick, so you retain the knowledge as well. The TERP Guide to Travel is created by the UMD Health Services. It's a PDF that you can check out. It has tips for several months before you leave, a month before you leave, and then, of course, things that you should consider while you're actually traveling. So check that out as well. Depending on the part of the country or part of the world that you're going to, of course, you may require certain vaccinations before you leave and immunizations. If you aren't quite sure, you can always check the CDC's Traveler's Health Guide. That's also available here. And it gives you ideas for your vaccines, medicines, advice, where are you going, so you can decide or click where you're going, and they'll give you some tips of whether or not you may actually need any vaccines, or if there are actually any required vaccines that you must have before you visit that country. And once you figure out whether or not you need those, then you can visit the University Health Center, which is here, their travel services page. They will be able to give you any immunizations that you may need, but of course at a particular cost down here at the bottom, depends on what you're getting. So be aware of that as well. But that is available to you. We also have a couple of mental health sources here. We realize that being abroad and being away from family and friends and people you don't know can be very stressful. Adjusting to the culture shock and making new friends can all put a damper on your study abroad experience. So we want to make sure that you are able to enjoy your experience while you're there. So the University of South Florida's Counseling Center has prepared this Mental Health Wellness Abroad resource, which is actually extremely thorough. It's very well organized as well. And this Counseling Center, they created it so that it gives you basically ways that you can identify what's affecting you, your sleep health, reducing your stress. So it's all very helpful. Some of it, of course, may be specific to University of South Florida, but that would be rather obvious, so just make sure you pay attention to that. And we have here on campus mental health services as part of the University Health Clinic. Currently, they do not offer web-based therapy. However, if need be, you can always set up a therapy session prior to your departure, an initial therapy session where they will actually sit down with you and with a therapist, and you can tell them your concerns, let them know what's going on. Let them know that you'll be going abroad, and they will be able to help you create a plan in order to take care of that. So if that's a resource that you think you would like, then think about that before you depart as well. So that's the pre-departure page. So make sure you give that a good browse. It's very helpful. So with that, we know as long as the know before you go, the preparations, the resources, you also might need to know a little information about the cultures that you're going to be experiencing. So there's some things that might be different from what we do here in America, so you might want to learn about that. If you'd like to learn more information about them, each one of these countries or these areas listed here are actually organized by the Education Abroad Office. So these are categorized the same way they would be on the Education Abroad page. But just to show you here, click the Europe page. When you open it up, it's a couple of destination guides and things that would be very helpful for your travel while you're there. And each one of these pages that are by area, when you open it up, each country is listed, and you can actually pick through, decide which one you're going to or whichever, and browse through it and read more where to go, get a couple of helpful hints before you travel. So there's that one. There's also the in-country travel while you're there. We realize you are going to have free time. It may not be all the time, and it may not be as much as you'd like because you are there to study, but you will have a couple of days where you may be able to travel outside of the particular area that you were in. So we've compiled a couple of travel tips, safety tips, helpful hints, possible sites that you may want to visit. For the most part, whenever you consider looking through all of this, that'll be very helpful as well. So if you need any travel tips, traveling across Europe, Asia, whichever, check out that page as well. So now that you've done your program, unfortunately, it is now time to return home.
Yes, you won't be abroad forever. So this page is just something for you to keep in mind. I know that coming home feels light years away at this point, but it will happen. So this is just a resource to keep in mind to access once you get back home. So it's just a couple things. I'd like to draw your attention to this Study Abroad Returnee Conference being held at George Washington University in the fall. So if you want to get together with a bunch of other kids who also went on awesome study abroad things and just want to talk about what you did and share that, this is definitely something to look into. We recommend it. So just keep that in the back of your mind for now. We also have just some quick links to keep you informed with world events and in touch with all the awesome cultural things you did while you were abroad. And also, this is just a reminder, you're going to make friends abroad. Keep talking to them once you come back home so they'll stay your friends. So we know that you already know what social media you use, but stay in touch with them and stay in touch with us. This is all the study abroad contact stuff on social media. I know we threw a lot of information at you and we don't expect you to remember it all. So this contact page kind of puts all the big items together for you to access at your own convenience. So it's organized into just some library links with the Ask Us Now, service specialist kind of stuff. Education Abroad, they have all your program information. So if you need to get in touch with them, this is where you do it. And then just health services, another good thing to have in your back pocket. So, I know that we talked a lot. Just remember, you have access to resources and help while you're abroad. You're not alone out there. You can still talk to us even though you'll be oceans away. And your questions are welcomed and encouraged by library staff. If you have questions, get in touch with us. We can help you out even though we're not going to talk to you face-to-face. So these are just the URLs for the Ask Us Now and Subject Specialist pages in case you want to write them down or see what the address actually looks like instead of just a link on a web page. We've also provided the phone numbers for the staff here at McKeldin and the Education Abroad offices in case the internet's not working and you need to get in touch with somebody. Now, just remember that there will be time differences while you're abroad, so keep that in mind when you make a phone call. Have a lot of fun on your trips, and feel free to check this website out on your own. It's an awesome resource for you guys to use.